For all of you who are Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you know that the Pittsburgh Steelers recently suffered a pretty big loss with the death of Tunch Ilkin. Tunch played with the Steelers for a good number of years, and after that he went into a very successful broadcasting career locally. I had the opportunity to meet Tunch some years ago. Now, a little bit of background here. Back in the days when Tunch was playing, there was a fellow named Randy White who was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. And Randy White was pretty phenomenal. And he credited his ability in football to also studying martial arts as well. And he was the first person to really come out and say this. So Tunch Ilkin and his buddy Craig Wolfley both came up to the Pennsylvania Karate Academy at the time and wanted to incorporate martial arts into their line play. And I was lucky enough to be the first instructor they had. And I worked with both guys. They were great. They had some great stories to tell, and they were super in the workouts. I took them as far as I could. And then, these are professional athletes, so I had to hand them off to somebody who could take them to the next level. That was Bill Edwards. People called him the Sarge. And those of you in the martial arts community will know that he was consistently ranked in the top 10 martial arts practitioners along the eastern coast. So we turned them over to good hands and stayed in touch with these guys. When Tunch was done training, he wanted to get into broadcasting, and he did something that I think most pro athletes could. He started slow and, a little bit lower, and got his feet wet actually doing broadcasting. And I'm happy to say that one of the shows he did was a show that I was producing at the time on the local origination channel here in Bethel Park. It was called Portrait on Sports. And Tunch said, how about if we do an interview? I can, see how you set up. You can work with me. And I said, Tunch, that would be great. And we did. And now that he has passed, I thought it might be pretty good to pull that old tape out and show you. It's an hour-long exclusive interview with Tunch Ilkin. This was back in his peak time. This was back in 1993. He's going to look a lot different from when you last saw him, and certainly I am too. But it was a very good interview and revealed an awful lot about the man. I think you'll enjoy it. Here is Remembering Tunch Ilkin.
Mr. Tunch Ilkin. Tunch, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Felix.
Good to have you on. Let's talk. We're going to talk, and I mentioned this before the show, a little bit, 3 parts I want to do this show. And I want to talk about the team, so let's not have the audience get nervous. We will talk about the Steelers, and we'll talk about Tunch's play and how he prepares for a game and everything like that. But first, I want to delve a little bit into Tunch Ilkin, the man. And let's start by saying that you come from a Turkish background.
Right.
And let's start with your family. Did they keep a lot of the old world culture and heritage when you get together? Do you still have that going around, or have you kind of become Americanized?
Well, I think it's kind of worked both ways. We moved to the Chicago area when we came to the States, and there are a lot of Turkish families, a lot of Turkish people, a lot of friends that they had from the old country that were in the Chicago area. So as a result of that, they still observed a lot of the same type culture and holidays. All their friends speak Turkish. As a matter of fact, to this day, my mother always speaks to me in Turkish. Very rarely do we communicate in English, although she does speak English, and so does my dad. We usually at home we speak Turkish.
How about the food? Turkish food.
Well,
does it fit well in the
Turkish food is great. It's a lot of garlic, a lot of bean and rice dishes, and lamb, and I love it. As a matter of fact, my wife has become a great Turkish cook. My mom gave her all my favorite recipes, and Sharon cooks Turkish as well as any Turkish-born.
And it goes down well with the kids too.
Oh, the kids love it too.
That's great. You can invite me for dinner anytime.
That's right.
What was the reaction when your family, from your family, when they found out that you were going to play pro ball?
Well, the day of the draft, the Steelers called me. I wasn't at home. It was the draft was in 2 days at that time, and I was told by scouts and agents and such that I would probably not be drafted to the later rounds, if at all. And so the Giants called me early in the morning, and they said, Tunch, if we're not going to draft you, but if nobody else does, we'd like to sign you as a free agent. We'd like to bring you up to New York on this weekend and put you through a workout. and we'd like you to bring your own stuff. And I'm like, well, oh boy, there's a lot of interest in me. So I just left the house. I was down in Terre Haute, Indiana at Indiana State University. And I went to the gym to work out, so I was gone all day figuring if I get a call, it's going to be late the next day, the second day of the draft. And while I was gone, they called. I was there. They called my mom out in San Francisco. She thought I was drafted into the Army. She wasn't sure what was going on. And finally, she called Sharon, who was my girlfriend at the time, to find out what was going on. And Sharon called me up, said, "Congratulations, you were drafted in the 6th round by the Steelers." And I said, "Get out of here! Someone's pulling your leg." And right after I got off the phone with her, still not believing, feeling that someone probably pulled a prank on either my mom or Sharon or me, I got a call from Raleigh Dotch, who was then the offensive line coach with the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised by Pittsburgh picking you?
Oh, well, not really, because that was really the only team that had shown a great deal of interest in me. They flew me in for a physical, so I knew they were interested. They had sent the scout out, and they sent their offensive line coach, Raleigh Dotch, out. So, although when Raleigh came here, I was snapping the ball to him. I used to play center in college, and they were drafting me as a center. Then Raleigh Dotch and Bill Nunn came out to work me out, and I cut open Raleigh's hand when I snapped him with my nail. When I put a big gash in his finger. Then I was long snapping to Bill Nunn. I chucked it over his head. He jumped up for it and split his pants. So I go, well, the Steelers aren't going to draft me. But so I was really excited. Plus, being that they had just won their 4th Super Bowl, I was thinking, how am I going to make a team like that? I mean, where am I going to go? How am I going to help a team that's got possibly 10 Hall of Famers on it?
Yeah, that's a complete contrast to the stories you normally hear about the guy that's sitting by the phone waiting, and you take off and run into the gym. Let's get a little bit back to the Steelers a little bit later. We talked a little bit about your family life, and let's talk a little bit about where you're living right now. I don't think too many people are unaware that you're a local guy, live in Upper St. Clair. What do you like about Upper St. Clair? What keeps you staying here?
I think
other than the Steelers, of course.
Well, I think Pittsburgh in general, the thing that has really touched me about this community is how friendly the people are. I mean, this is a big city, of course, and has everything that you'd want in a big city: sports teams, a theater, shopping, everything you want, but yet it's got a small town attitude. People are very down to earth here. People are very regular. It seems to have a real ethnic and family type flavor to it. There's strong moral fiber here, and it makes for a great place to raise children, to have a family. And I just, we're dug in. I've been here for 13 years. I feel Pittsburgh is home for us.
When your playing days with the team are over, you make it sound like you're more than willing to just anchor right here and stay. Is that pretty much the...
Well, Lord willing, this is where I want to live. We've brought all 3 children home from the hospital to the same house, and we're very, very happy here. We love the school system and the people. I think that's what makes a community, is the people. There's a tremendous amount of civic pride in this area, and I can understand why.
Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned the kids and the schools, let's tie this right in. Upper St. Clair, of course, has an excellent sports program, as do the other areas we go to, Bethel Park, Mount Lebanon, Peters Township. Don't want to leave anybody out there. How do you feel, what's your opinion on the local programs? I guess concentrate, if you will, on Upper St. Clair, since that's where you reside, but how do you feel the local programs in the South Hills area are here at the high school level?
Well, obviously, Jim Renders has had an unbelievable success at Upper St. Clair. I mean, they have a tremendous football program. Ever since I've been following high school sports, they've had great years, year in and year out, and they have a tremendous coaching staff down there, and they have kids that come out and that'll work and play. They play hard, good, tough football, and it's a program as good as I've seen. Another program that I watch with a great deal of interest, that I also root for, is Trinity High School in Washington, Pennsylvania, because my good buddy Ted Peterson is the head coach over there, and Ted and I have been close friends for a number of years, and he's done a great job out there. He's just a great guy, and the type of guy that you would love to have coaching and teaching your kids. So I think from what I've seen, even in Mount Lebanon, Bethel Park, Peters Township, you've got coaches out here that really care about the kids, and that's what's really important. You want your kids, when your kids are involved in sports, and you know as well as I do, what you want them first is to learn the fundamentals, and you want them to have fun. And you want to have coaches and teachers that are involved with them that and I see this, my wife and I have seen this in the school district as well with Tanner and Natalie's teachers. You see people who are really concerned about the children that they're teaching and that they're coaching, and that are impacting these kids in a very positive way.
So you obviously then you would have no problem with letting, say Tanner, since he's your oldest, letting Tanner go through a football system in Upper St. Clair or any other?
No. As a matter of fact, I try not to push any of my kids in any direction. I encourage them to play all sports and get involved in all sorts of activities. Right now, he's playing floor hockey, so him and I have been playing a lot of street hockey since the off season started, and I'm getting pretty good. And
try out with the Pens next week. Huh?
If they had a street hockey team, but no, I think it's. I've been very pleased with the coaches that I've seen at the Little League level. Tanner's been involved in the YMCA programs in soccer, floor hockey, and Little League baseball. And I've been real encouraged by the coaches that have been involved in all of them.
Has Tanner expressed any? Have any of your kids expressed any interest in? Possibly doing what Daddy does?
Well, Natalie wants to play professional football.
She does?
No, actually, Tanner has really shown an interest in hockey this year, especially. He's been skating some, and he's playing floor hockey in the youth program, and every day when he comes home from school, he's been wanting to play street hockey. And Natalie has been involved in the Gymkhana program right down the street here, and in different, and she really likes gymnastics. The kids love sports, and I think I think they enjoy it for the camaraderie that they have with other kids as much as they do for the sport alone. But I think they like all sports.
Do any of your kids have the? Have any of them exhibited? Is it? Oh, that's just Dad, or has it hit them yet that? That's Dad, but Dad's a big football star.
No, I think basically that's just Dad. I don't think they, I think when I bring Tanner and Natalie down to the stadium with me on an off day, to them it's just like any other father bringing their kids down to the office. This is where Dad works. This is what Dad does. Sometimes they don't understand why people want my autograph all the time. But Dad goes, "Why do you want your autograph?" I said, "Well, I really don't know." And I'm honest about that.
Do they ever have that attitude with, say, some of your teammates that maybe you bring up the house or you're walking down the street with, and they go, "Hey, Dad, he's a big football player"?
No, not really. Tanner reacts that way to hockey players. There's Jaromir Jagr, Dad. There's Mary Lemieux. To football players, he comes down the stadium, so he sees all the guys. He sees Bubby and Neil and Barry and those guys, and so it's just like, those are the guys that Dad works with. No big deal. But yet if he sees one of the Pens or one of the Bucks walking around, there's Barry Bonds, Dad. Then all of a sudden the excitement jumps out of him.
Dad says, "What am I, chopped liver?"
Well, I understand, and that's great. I don't want them to think of me as anything special. I'd like them to think I'm special because I'm their dad, not because of what I do. And I'm just a regular working stiff like everybody else. Work hard to make a living. I just happen to be very fortunate that I'm doing something that I really, really love to do. Yeah. So I don't want my kids to think of me as something like my dad plays for the Steelers. I would be very disappointed, and I wouldn't be doing a very good job as a father if they looked at me different.
I didn't mean to purposely chuckle at you there, but when you say something like that, it's very different. See, work to me is you come, you get dressed up, you sit behind a desk, and you ask somebody questions. I can't equate that with having a 250 to 300 pound crazed man trying to bowl me over and consider that as work. So that was a little chuckle there. I want to go back to the high school thing before we get off of this real quick. Since you mentioned Jim Render and his program up here with the Panthers, and you mentioned Ted Peterson, have you ever gone to any of the games or even any of the workouts and looked down at the high school kids practicing or playing and saw something that you say, hey, they shouldn't be doing that on a high school level. That's for the pros. Those are secrets the pros have. What are they doing there?
Not really. You know, I've seen a lot of Jim's guys working out in their summer program because he lets me go run on the Upper St. Clair field, and so I go in the weight room and see what they're doing. I am amazed at how advanced high school football has become. And you know, when I was playing high school football, I didn't even know what weight training was. Now these guys, I walked into the Upper St. Clair weight room and I was envious of it. I mean, it was a beautiful weight room. This summer when I was working out, I went down there and I saw the program that they had, and I thought, wow, this is really an advanced off-season football conditioning program. I mean, no wonder these guys win. They really know what they're doing. Same thing, I was out at Trinity seeing Ted's kids and you know, seeing those guys lift and how much effort they put in the off-season. Playing football at the high school level now is a big-time commitment. It isn't just you show up on Saturday to play or Friday night. You don't just show up to practice. These guys are involved in intense off-season conditioning programs where they really are getting better, and that's really where you do get better.
So when you say the programs were advanced, did you just mean equipment-wise and training-wise, or do you mean the game itself?
Well, I can only speak from a training program. I mean, what these guys are doing in the off-season are really benefiting their football players. And I was really encouraged to see young people with that kind of commitment. You know, these guys are showing up to the off-season programs. You know, that's not something that's easy to do. You know, the kids play football, and then in the off-season, they're working out, and they're saying, hey, look, I'm committed to becoming the best athlete I can be, the best football player I can be. And I think it says a lot for their respected coaches.
Let's kind of shift gears a little bit here and talk about something else I want to touch on. You had mentioned that you'd like to make Pittsburgh your home, and you really like the area, and I guess as a tribute to that, you've kind of become further rooted in the Pittsburgh community by getting involved with a lot of various charities. What charities have you really devoted your efforts to lately, and why? Why those?
Well, I think, you know, as a Pittsburgh Steeler, first let me say that you know, whenever there's been a charity, an individual, an organization that was in need, the Steeler organization has always been there, been involved, ready to lend a hand. And I think that really the tone was really set by the late Art Rooney. The chief was a guy that was just a tremendous gentleman, and he always made whoever he was speaking to, whoever he was dealing with, he made that person feel more important than him. And he always treated you like that, like you were someone special. And everyone that ever recounts any Art Rooney stories say the same thing. You know, I always felt like that I was someone special to him, and that's the way the chief was. As a result of that, the Steelers have always been involved. Guys, starting back with when I first came here, Mike Webster, John Kolb, Larry Brown, Franco Harris, Robin Cole, these guys were out in the community. They were always giving of themselves, giving something back to the community that has supported them for so many years. And so as a result of that, it's kind of been traditional. It's been a trait that has been handed down from Pittsburgh Steeler to Pittsburgh Steeler, that this is what we do. When I got here, I said, okay, this is what guys that I really respect, hey, look, they're really helping out. These guys really care. And so because of that, you know, that's the attitude that we all have. You know, this is an opportunity for us to give something back to the community. So I've been involved in a lot of different stuff. I think the two things that really that really have touched my heart is the homeless situation in Pittsburgh. You know, I've been involved. We do a fundraising event every year called the Steelers Shootout, where it's run a lot like a golf tournament. We have 5-man trap teams, and it's done at the Millvale Sportsman's Club in Wexford, and it's to raise money for Pittsburgh's homeless. We get about 15 to 20 Steelers out there, former and present, and we put one guy on each team, just like a golf tournament. So it becomes a five-some. It gives guys an opportunity from the community to really help people that are really in need and get a chance to rub elbows and get autographs with some Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's been very successful. This is our 5th annual coming up, and we raise corporate sponsorship, and we help specifically 4 local shelters. One is the Light of Life Rescue Mission, which is on the north side, and I got a lot of friends down there, good buddies down there that work down there, Dwayne Garland and Terry, and they're good friends, and they're doing great work down there with feeding and sheltering the homeless people of Pittsburgh. Also Bethlehem Haven and Women's Space East and the Deborah House. Those are 4 shelters that that don't get the notoriety that some do, and don't get the corporate help that others do. So this is a nice opportunity for them to get some money that they can use on various things. And the other charity that I really enjoy being involved with is Special Olympics. Special Olympics is great. Special Olympians just really touch me. The executive director for the Pennsylvania Special Olympics is also a good friend of mine, Bill Parise, and he's done a terrific job with that organization, and just seeing those kids compete, you really see competition for the pure joy of competition, and that's what really and those guys are just so fired up and so excited, and it's really been a blessing and a privilege to be part of these things.
Tunch, when you decide to align with a particular charity like the homeless or the Special Olympics, do you personally go and like you had listed the 4 places that you help out with this golf outing and that, do you personally go and check those out to see what's actually being done there, or is that taken care of for you by the Steeler organization?
Well, no, this was done actually the way we happened to decide on these specific shelters was there is a nonprofit organization in Pittsburgh called Action Housing, and they're also a United Way agency. They do tremendous work with homeless, underprivileged, low-income housing, handicap housing in the community, and we went to them and we said, look, we want to, as a matter of fact, it was Ouija Thompson and I that came up with this idea a long time ago, 5 years ago. Who do we help? How do we do it? And they came up with the idea of these 4 specific shelters, and they told us, they shared with us that these were shelters that were in need, and they act as a conduit, so we don't have to deal with the money. When we go to a corporation and say, would you please be part of this, donate $1,000 or a couple $1,000 to help the homeless, they make the check out to Action Housing. Action Housing distributes it to the shelters, so that kind of makes it easy for me in that I don't have to handle any money, I don't have to deal with that thing. As far as seeing the shelters, I kind of took a liking personally with Light of Life. I just go down there and hang out every now and then. They're my buddies down there, and the other specific shelters I haven't been at, those are women's shelters that also do tremendous things. But the guys down at Light of Life have become my friends, and I just enjoy hanging out down there.
Well, I almost hate to say this because this morning on the radio, this is how fast this happened, but this morning on the radio on Paulson and Crennan, I shouldn't even mention their name because they've never plugged my show on their radio station. I don't know why I should plug their, but anyway, they said this morning that my guest was a 2-to-1 odds favorite to retire. And we'll find out about that when Portrait on Sports continues right after this.
Did you know that anytime you experience a problem with your cable reception, you can call Adelphia Cable 24 hours a day and receive prompt, courteous service with absolutely no charge? Adelphia Cable takes pride in offering you expert service completely free of charge. Think about it. How many businesses can make that statement? Adelphia Cable, treating you like family.
And we're back with you here on Portrait on Sports. Hello, everybody. I'm Fiore, and my guest is Tunch Ilkin, all-pro offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tunch, let's go right where we left off the break. Some people are saying, this is it. You're going to retire and you're ready to go. And other people are saying, no, let's go right to the source itself. Have you thought about hanging up the cleats? Or what's the story on that?
Well, it's funny. I think whenever you're the same age as the head coach, people assume that the game has passed you by, that it's time for you to move on. You know, I haven't made that decision yet, Fury. That's something that I'm thinking about. You know, obviously, I've been in the league 13 years, and that is a long time. But, you know, I'm really not sure. I haven't made a decision at this point. I think, you know, I'm just going to wait as the off-season progresses, see how I feel, physically, if I think I'm capable, and see how I am mentally, if I still want to.
Okay, so as of this taping, you have not made a decision.
I have not made a
to go.
decision.
Now, some of the people on some of the other sports shows, and I'm not plugging anybody else on this show, said that if you do come back to the team next year, you may have a, well, for lack of a better term, you may have a part-time role because the team wants to bring up Leon Searcy, and they may use you as more like a mentor teacher for him. If that theory is true, if they limit your playing time and try to work Leon in there, do you think you could be comfortable with a role like that, going from, you know, starting on your position to maybe being more of a teacher and occasionally going in?
Well, you know, I'm not really sure. I guess what I'm going to have to do is cross that bridge when I get to it. There's no doubt that Leon Searcy is a tremendous talent, and he's a young kid that's going to be a great football player for many, many years. Don't be fooled by the fact that he didn't play much last year. This guy is a good, fine young man. He's a young guy that just has the work ethic already. He wants to play. He wants to be good. He's willing to watch extra film and work before practice on technique. So he's going to be a fine player. Whether that's going to happen next year or not is yet to be seen. I do know that the Steelers are very, very high on him, rightfully so. They haven't spoke to me in one way or another about what my role is going to be on this football team next year, or even if there is going to be a role. So I guess I can best answer that question is I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah. Now, physically speaking, and you say you've been in the league 13 years, and that's a long time, and those years are certainly grueling. Physically speaking, how many years would you think you have left for pro ball?
Well, you know, I've never thought too far in the future. My attitude has always been throughout my football career is take it one day at a time. Now, I never put a limit on how long I wanted to play or a goal as for. I think when I first came in the league, I just wanted to play 1 year, so I could tell everybody I did it. And so, you know, I don't know. I actually right now I feel really good. You know, I did miss 4 ball games last year with assorted injuries. And you start questioning yourself, you know, am I getting too old? But the things I had were like kind of freak things. I pulled a hamstring, broke my arm, pulled a groin. You know, those are things that can happen to a 25-year-old man, let alone a 35-year-old. So, you know, I just chalk that up to kind of a freak year. From a physical standpoint, right now, I feel pretty good. My main concern has always been my shoulders. I've had chronic shoulder problems in the past. I've had them both operated on. But this year, they didn't give me any trouble whatsoever. But like I said, one day at a time. So, you know, I could never say, boy, I'd like to play 3 more years or 2 more years. So, you know, I've never done that. Okay. Just one day at a time.
Well, let's, hypothetical situation. Let's say you want to play, but the Steelers don't think you should play. Would you consider going to another team?
Well, I think that is an alternative. There's no doubt that that is something, you know, especially now we are in the new era of free agency, where players really do have the freedom to go to other football teams. And I think if that situation happened, you know, I would have to listen to whatever offers came my way. You know, if I was committed to playing and the Steelers were committed to me retiring, and there were other teams out there that were looking for somebody, you know, I'd have to consider it. You know, there'd be that fact. Well, it'd be, you know, we'd have to take the kids out of this school for a half year and go to another school. You know, you know, I've always played for the Steelers. I love this organization. I'd hate to finish my career anywhere else. But you know, those are things that you have to keep in mind.
Tunch, when you think about things like this, and obviously they've entered your mind, and I'm sure you've heard people speculating on this on the talk shows, just like everyone else has heard. Well, when you sit down and you think about these things, do they have the tendency to get a little depressing for you? I mean, when you think that it might be coming to
no, not at all. As a matter of fact, hey, I am just so thankful. I thank God every day that I've had the opportunity to play football, something that I love very much, and for an organization that I also happen to love very much. For 13 years, I've had some of the greatest teachers teach me how to play this game. Guys like Chuck Noll, offensive line coaches like Ron Blackledge and Raleigh Dotch, and of course players like John Kolb and Larry Brown and Mike Webster. I mean, I have learned from the best. So, you know, I don't have any sadness, and especially because most of my friends are retired anyways. I mean, all my good buddies, you know, Wolf and Gary Dunn and Ted Peterson, they're gone. So it's not like there's going to be a lot of guys that I'm going to miss. You know, there's a real generation gap between me and most of the guys on this team. And I kind of welcome the next challenge. You know, it's something to look forward to. Chuck always talks about getting on with your life's work, and you know, that is something that you know, although I do love football, you know, when the time comes, and it could be this year, it may not. You know, I look forward to that challenge as well.
Let's not go on to life's work just yet. Let's just say this: that if you want to go to a next step, have you thought of or considered staying in football or getting involved with football, maybe on a different level, say maybe the high school level or whatever in the area?
You know, that's something that you know, I've thought about. I love working with young people, and although that's something that would take I would have to take a different direction. My degree is in broadcasting. I guess I'd have to go back to school and take classes to be a teacher and get a teacher certificate. I'm not sure that's a direction I want to go, but I'm not sure that it's not either. But the thought of working with young people or coaching or teaching people, I get a great deal of satisfaction of even working with a guy like Leon Searcy. You know, Leon is a guy that has come to me many times, and you know, we've talked about how to block people, how to use your hands, how to pass block, stuff like that. And I really enjoy doing that. I really enjoy. I've had the privilege to work with a lot of our young offensive linemen over the past few years, much in the same way that guys like John Kolb and Mike Webster, Larry Brown had done with me. And so, you know, I don't rule out anything. You know, I'm open to a lot of different stuff at this point.
Okay, now let's go and talk about life's work. You would have to be laying a foundation down for something or other as your pro football career winds down. What are you looking at? Are you involved in anything in particular that possibly you could pick up when football's over, or do you have a certain sights set on a certain road that you'd like to take at that time? Or?
Well, you know, Craig Wolfley and I started this sports marketing company a couple of years ago, and we've been doing some work with that. It's been a lot of fun. It's really great to be able to work with a good buddy, and we've got another partner, Cheryl Rambler, that we've been involved with, and it's been a real learning process. It's been a great experience. It's something that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I shouldn't say I'm not sure. I guess it's just you know, we'll see where that goes. It's something that I've enjoyed. You know, my degree's in broadcasting. I wouldn't mind getting involved in broadcasting to some extent. You know, I do have a little experience in that area. I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to do different things in different off seasons that have kind of prepared me for that next step. Do I have a concrete, clear-cut vision of what direction I want to go? Does anybody?
Really? A while back, and this was a while back, just talking off the wall, you and I, we had mentioned that possibly life after football might involve some pro wrestling. Is that still?
No, you're mistaking me with somebody else.
No, you and Craig up at the
No, that
we're
was.
going to be a tag team.
We were
or
just-
you pulling my
We were
leg?
pulling you.
Oh, gee.
I haven't even thought about wrestling. No, that's
See, I thought you guys were serious. I thought you were going to
No.
tag team and go and wipe out and get the belts in 2 or 3 years or something like that.
No, that's not.
So that's chalked and off.
No,
the wall.
as a matter of fact, this
Okay.
will be my last job at anything that's really
Now, see,
physically demanding.
I can see it. Next time you get together with Craig, you'll say, "Do you know he bought that and even mentioned it on his show?" Jeez, thanks a lot, Tunch. I appreciate it. All right, while you made me look bad, we might as well make you look better. Let's do this. You recently won the Chief Award, and for those of you who are might not know, the Chief Award is presented to the athlete who, if I get this correctly, demonstrates the most amiability or cooperation toward the media. I have it just about right.
Right.
And obviously, since Tunch is on my show, what more could you want? They said, well, he's going on for your show. Well, let's give it right to him. I've got to ask you this because every week now, it seems no matter what network you're watching a football game on, and no matter what game it is, there's always somebody who's keeping a football for some reason, and the equipment manager will pick up the football and they'll write, you know, Tunch Ilkin, 600th block or something like that, and they'll throw it into a case. How many of these things do you have at home? Game balls or just trophy footballs?
I have 2. And one of them I gave to Tanner. My footballs were just given to me as a game ball, and you know, 2 of them. I never nobody put them in a thing. They were just the captains and the head coach. Actually, when Chuck was coaching here, the captains handed out game balls. Okay, the captains came to decide who got the game balls after victories. Now, under Bill, we vote on game balls. And I have never gotten a game ball just because I had the game ball. I've gotten 2 game balls, but what they were offensive line balls. They were given to the entire offensive line. So everybody got a ball, and I have 2 of them.
Do you have a trophy room in your home?
Well, I would if I had any. Okay, see, I don't. So
Nowhere to put the Chief
no
Award
trophy
then,
room,
right?
you know. And I haven't even, you know, the chief. I got the Chief Award, but I don't think it's really an award. I think it's just kind of award in name because I didn't get anything for it. So I don't have any trophies
Okay, we had to get that.
and no trophy room. But believe me, if I get one, I'm building a room. I'm adding a room on for
I
it.
don't blame you. Put it in there with your wrestling.
I mean, I didn't even get any. I didn't even receive any trophies in high school or college. As a matter of fact, if you're looking for a trophy, we're going to have to go back to 7th grade Little League.
Oh, jeez.
And when we won the World Series, I have a trophy, and I still have it.
I bet. They come rarely, huh? Let's do this. Let's. This might be a little too all-encompassing because I know 13 years is an awful long time. But let's try to put this a little bit more on a serious vein. If you look back on the past 13 years, what really stands out? What are like the top few highlights of your career that you really, really remember and hold on to?
I guess the first thing is the first time I wore a Steeler uniform. The first game we played was an exhibition game down in Atlanta, the first exhibition game that I played in. And there was just something really special about wearing the black and gold. That was just a moment that will always stand out in my mind. The second was when we beat Denver in '84 in the first round of the playoffs when nobody gave us a snowball's chance of winning out there. And they were, the Bronco fans were chanting, "Bring on Miami." And I remember after we won that game, that entire stadium was completely full, and that place rocks. I mean, you talk about loud stadiums. As far as outdoor stadiums, that is by far the loudest. As a matter of fact, that place is so loud you can feel the vibration of the fans on the football field. And I just remember how quiet it was when we were leaving the field. I mean, it was just an eerie silence, and that was one of the greatest feelings that I've ever experienced because everyone picked us to lose. No one thought we had a chance, and we went out there in Denver and whooped up on them. The first time I was selected to a Pro Bowl, I really didn't expect it. I didn't think it was ever going to happen, and I was just flabbergasted by it. It really knocked me over. I just was totally in shock that it happened, and going out in Hawaii. I remember the national anthem for the Pro Bowl game, and I was just thinking to myself, man, Lord, I can't believe I'm here. Thank you. This is great. When we beat Houston in '89 in the playoffs down there, when Gary Anderson kicked that 50-yard field goal, or 52-yard field goal to win it, I remember that because nobody gave us a chance to win down there. They beat us twice during the regular season in Pittsburgh and down in Houston, and we went down there and won in overtime. And I just remember seeing those guys all sprawled out on the ground like they were just really hurt. They couldn't believe it, and I couldn't believe it too. Those were probably some of the highlights.
Since two of those highlights involve situations where the Steelers were underdogs, are you comfortable with that role? Do you like being the underdog?
Oh yeah, I love it. I always feel like I kind of have been. I've always been told that I was too slow and too small. Now I'm too old. I've always pulled for the underdog. I really enjoy. I've enjoyed the games where we were thought of as the underdogs going in the game, and there's nothing better. Starting out this season, people probably thought we wouldn't win 6 football games. And then we got on a roll early, and we were able to continue that. So proving people wrong and surprising and shocking people is really a great feeling.
I'm really glad you brought that up because when you're 5'6" like me, it's very difficult for somebody like me to look at you and say small. But I'm glad you brought that up because for a long time you were tagged as being a small lineman. How did you respond when you heard that?
I didn't really pay much attention to it. I think. I am very comfortable with that. I've always been too small. I came into this. When you're talking about an era in the NFL when your prototype offensive linemen are 6'6", 6'7", 300 pounds, I'm 6'2 and a half, 6'3", 265, 270 if I'm really force-feeding. I've enjoyed it. Sometimes I run up to the line of scrimmage real quick and get in my stance so people don't realize how small I am. I like it. I think it gives me leverage. I think people are too hung up in size and speed. I've always been a guy that has felt if you either can play or you can't play. It really doesn't matter how big, strong, and fast you are. Okay,
now you segued into another question I wanted to save for later, but we'll bring it up now, and that's the stance. There was a bit of controversy this season and last season, and you could probably fill this in because for the life of me I couldn't remember what team it was that first picked this up on you, but they said that all they do is they watch how you line up because you line up slightly different on a passing play than you do on a running play and all that stuff. Now
it happened twice actually. I was guilty of that twice when we played Cincinnati years ago. Okay. What happened was their strong safety, David Fulcher, had mentioned to Paul McGuire, who was doing the color for the game, that you could pick up on my stance when I'm in the pass or when I'm in a run. The only thing that he didn't say was that I give my pass stance on second and long and third and long where it's obvious passing situations, and I have about 8 different stances, and I give a bunch of dummy stances on each time. So if you can pick it up, you're really a genius because I never line up twice the same way. I literally have about 8 or 9 different stances, and I mess with people all the time. And the thing is, a friend of mine saw that on the game, and he said he was watching the game, and every time he said it once, and it was on 2nd and 18, he says, well, no kidding, you're going to pass. And in obvious passing situations, in nickel situations, you can always tell the offensive lineman that's going to be a pass because you're setting back on your heels. If you're setting up, you're going to get beat. So.
So is that basically what the difference was in the stance? You were either rocking backwards or leaning more forward?
Right, exactly.
Okay, because two different networks picked up on this and made it a point to
well, it was two different games in different seasons, and it was funny because Paul McGuire saw me the next day, and I said, Paul, thanks to you, I've got a lot of mail about people trying to help me, coach me with my stance, and he says, you know what, I was just talking about it, and then I noticed I wasn't even consistent with it, because then after, as I was watching you, I got right, I was right on the very first one, and then I wasn't right the rest of the game. He said, so I even, kind of kicked myself for even bringing it up. And I said, well, hey, it's the same stance I've had my whole career. You've just discovered that. Nah, how bright are you for, So we had a big, we had a big laugh on it. And it's, hey, when it's an obvious passing down, it's no kidding what we're doing. And that's what, and that's when you can tell. And I think you can tell most.
That whole situation then didn't bring down the ire of any of the coaches or anything.
No. As a matter of fact, Ron Blackledge, Blackie comes up to me, he goes, I cannot believe they're talking about this. This is so stupid. And he says, you can read any offensive lineman's stance in an obvious passing situation when they're really up on their heels. I mean, it's an obvious thing. It's funny because the next week we played in Cleveland, and I saw Clay Matthews, who's a good friend of mine, and Clay goes, I can't believe they were getting on you for that. Because it was in USA Today, and it was like, it was a big deal made of it. And, that comes with the territory. People are always going to talk about you. If you're worried about what people say or what people think, it's going to mess with your head. So the best thing to do is just kind of.
And that whole series of questions started as I had you reliving the highlights of your career. Let me go back to that initial question and just flip-flop it. Somewhere in that 13-year playing time, there's got to be one thing that just, boy, you just can't let it go. It sticks in your mind, and you play the shoulda, coulda game with it.
Oh, yeah.
What is that thing?
Well, boy, there's not one. I think the thing that sticks out in my mind was probably 1983. We were playing the Los Angeles Raiders in the first round of the playoffs out there, and I was playing against Lyle Alzado, and I just had a terrible game. I gave up 2.5 sacks, and I just had one of those days that is an offensive lineman's nightmare. It was just I played terrible, and I remember after that game, just every magazine I picked up, every football show that I'd watched, every highlight show, there I was getting beat for a sack by Lyle Alzado, and I kept thinking to myself, why did that happen to me? That whole off season, I used to train all off season long, just saying to myself, I am never going to let that happen. I am never going to experience another day. And not that kind of day can't be experienced again, but I was just so motivated by that I didn't want that to happen. And when you do it in the last game of the year, that's something you have to live with the whole off season. And that used to keep me awake at nights, especially because I'd hear stuff like sports announcers say that the Steelers cannot win with a guy like Tunch Ilkin playing offensive tackle. And I remember reading in Sports Illustrated that I stunk. And that was something that really had an effect on me. That I just remember thinking, golly, why did I let that happen? Why did that happen? And that was one of those things. That's something even to this day I think about. It really doesn't bother me anymore. But at the time, it really did.
Tunch, if you come under a lot of flack, either the Paul McGuire thing or the Sports Illustrated thing, or and they're hacking on you for size or the way you played a guy or something like that, I think anybody has experienced when something like that happens, you have a tendency to really feel bad, and it affects your game in that. What would happen when something like that would happen? Would it be the type of thing where you'd walk into practice the next day or suit up for the next game and everybody would kind of just be real quiet about it and leave you alone? Or were they there saying, hey, Tunch, don't worry about that, and offering support?
Well, I think most guys realize the only people that haven't had days like that are guys that have never played. That's the reality of it. It comes with the territory. There's not a guy, I remember Webby on a Monday Night Football game getting flagged for holding 4 times. And I remember thinking to myself, man, poor Webby. But Webby was these things happen, and that's the way you can go two ways from a bad outing or from that kind of experience. You either get better or you let it affect you and you get worse. If you start thinking, oh man, what are people going to think? You can't play football. And you've lost. What you got to do is put it out and say, okay, why did this happen? what can I do to prevent that from happening again? And the fact is that those guys are on scholarship too, and these things happen. It's a very competitive game. There's a lot of I mean, hey, you look at these defensive linemen now; they're all 6'5", 6'6", 280, run like deers. They're your basic genetic mutation, and they're going to get to the quarterback sometimes. And no matter how hard we try, no matter what we do, those things happen. But in answering your question about how do people react, I think what we all do is we all pull together. When a guy has a bad game, the rest of the guys go up to him, put their arm around him, and go, hey, these things happen. Don't let it bother you. Don't let it get you down. Forget it. Go on to the next game, the next play, the next season.
What do you think has been your personal biggest contribution to football?
Well, basically, I think it's probably, the name. Everyone goes, touchdown. What kind of, are you a field goal kicker?
We're going to find out about how Tunch has altered the playing position of offensive line and more about the Steeler team when Portrait on Sports continues right after this.
This is Dave Jeremiah from Peter Township High School, reminding you to stay off drugs. They'll lead you on a fast track to nowhere. If you want the chance to change the future for someone who doesn't have a chance, tell them to stay away from drugs. If you know someone who's abusing their body with drugs and alcohol, make them stop. Talk to them, and you'll make a better tomorrow. Their survival depends on it. Just say no. It's the only way to go. This has been a public service message of Adelphia Cable and Peter Township High School.
And welcome back to Portrait on Sports. I'm Fiore, and my guest is Tunch Ilkin, All-Pro offensive lineman for the Central Division champion Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a
mouthful.
Moniker.
That's
yeah,
a mouthful.
It really is. Let's talk a little bit about the Central Division champion Pittsburgh Steelers, Tunch. There were a lot of people who said the Steelers were lucky this year. They had a cake schedule, and they had a lot of luck. How do you respond to that? Was this team lucky, or did everybody just underestimate them?
It's funny, in preseason, everybody was saying, all the so-called experts, boy, you guys got a tough schedule. You guys got one of the toughest schedules in the AFC. How are you going to win? You probably won't win 6 games. Now the season's over, we go 11-5, and everybody says, man, that was an easy schedule. So those things are all relative. I mean, when you look on paper, a schedule can be hard or easy depending on who you draw. But as the season goes on, the complexion of your schedule, of everything, changes. I mean, that's what Chuck used to say. The only thing constant is change. So to that I say, hey, we play hard football. We play good team concept football. You can't win 11 football games by being lucky. You can win a few football games by being lucky. I think we did some things very well. Obviously, we were not good enough when we needed to be. We had home field advantage through the playoffs. We had a great opportunity, but we blew it. I don't think that is a reason to say we were lucky. I don't think you can say the schedule is easy, because anybody can beat anybody on a given Sunday, and I know that's an old cliche and people get sick of hearing it, but that's the truth.
Now, Coach Cowher comes in his first year. He goes 11-5, gets a division title. Have expectations been shot up maybe a little bit too high here?
Well, I don't think there is such thing as too high expectations. I think every team in the NFL comes into the season with the goal of getting to the Super Bowl, of winning the Super Bowl. So that's anything less.
Well, let's not talk about the team so much. I'm thinking from the fan perspective. Now, do you feel that the fans this year are expecting nothing less and will be satisfied with nothing less?
I think that they expect us to at least take it to the next level, whether that's getting to the AFC Championship game or getting to the Super Bowl. They do expect us to be a better football team. I expect us to be a better football team. The team expects us to be a better football team. So we go in with that attitude. The fans come into next football season with that attitude. So yeah, expectations are high, and they should be.
So how do you assess, we were talking a little bit during the break about how different cycles happen in the football league, and different divisions seem to have the powerhouse teams at given years for a runner. How do you assess the Steelers for next year? What do you see as their chances of reaching those higher expectations?
Well, I think I really believe we're a couple of players short.
Okay.
And I think for us to get to the next level, we have to go out and get a couple of football players, or we have to have a couple of football players within this organization step up and assume their respected roles and to get that level. You know.
For example, what position?
Well,
are
I
you
think
talking
we
about?
need a guy. We need someone to step up and put constant pressure on a quarterback. We need a top-rate pass rusher. Now, whether we go out and get one, or whether we get a guy from the Steelers right now that can do that, that's yet to be seen. We also need a wide receiver, a game-breaking type wide receiver. Once again, whether that's one of our young receivers stepping up and filling that role, assuming that role, or whether that's via the free agency route or the draft, I think those are the two things that we really need.
Let's talk a little bit about things that affect a team and possibly affect the play. One thing I want to talk about is in the past, and that was under the old regime, under Chuck Noll. There was a lot of media hype, if you will, over how some of the star players were released from the team. That type of letting go and the the old lines, the Franco who and time to get on with your life's work, is that taken in stride, or did you see that actually having an effect on the way the team approached the game after those comments?
Oh, I don't think that has. I mean, we're professionals. We have to do our jobs regardless of what's going on around us, whether or not we agree with what's going on or not. You know, first and foremost, we are professionals. We have to do our job. It's sad to see teammates go. One of the downsides of playing in the National Football League is you develop some tremendously close friendship ties. So, consequently, when teammates are traded or released or retired, you know, that leaves a void, and you're sad to see. I mean, it happens to all of us. Excuse me, it will happen to all of us. It's the inevitable. But I don't think it affects the way you play. It doesn't affect the way you prepare for a football season or a football game.
I understand that, and I realize that professionals have to do that, but still there's a human side, and that brings me up to my second part of it, which is more in the future and reflecting more. How does the team react, or how have you seen teams react when, let's say a star player will say some things that probably are out of line and mouth off a little bit?
I wonder what you're getting at.
I'm not saying, I'm not mentioning names. I promised you I wouldn't do that. But, you know, I mean, let's say, for example, you got somebody out there and somebody like you are on the line and you're head banging play after play, day after day, and then all of a sudden you hear this little voice coming up and it's blown all over the newspapers, all over the TV sets. You know, I mean, there's got to be a point where the professionalism steps aside and you go, son of a gun, shut up. You know, that type of...
Well, you know, I think those are things that have to be dealt with behind closed doors. I don't think it's something that you can air out in the media, because I think what the media tries to do is to drive a wedge. And whenever a situation, and I just assume you're referring to Barry Foster's comments right before the playoffs, and the media comes running in, and the first thing they come to, Tunch, did you hear what Barry Foster said? And for me to respond on air to what Barry Foster says is not good for our football team. For us to get into a contest of words or a conflict on air is not good for this football team. It obviously it annoys you. You think to yourself, why would he say something like that? This is not the time or the place. Obviously, everybody has their own feelings. Most people that you talk to would say that they're underpaid, and in any given profession. But I think, you know, you do have to be a professional. I mean, you cannot let that affect you the way you play. If you do, you're not truly a professional. People are always going to gripe. There are always people that are going to be unhappy about their circumstance, whether it's what they're playing, where they're playing, how much they're playing, or how much they're making. That's the nature of the game. And some people voice their opinion at inopportune times, and I think this classic case was that same thing. And of course, it angers you, and you think, "What is he saying? Why would he say that?" But yeah, I mean, that's not. I mean, you can't. You got to put that behind you. You're ready to play football.
Why do you made an interesting statement. You said the media tries to drive a wedge. Why do you think that's so?
Well, because it makes for good copy. It makes for, I mean, everybody likes to, all the media people like to be the one that break the story. We were just talking about that during the break. And there is nothing better than controversy. It's juicy. If you can show the little bleep before the news, find out what Steelers are responding to what so-and-so said, everybody's going, well, I'm going to watch that news story. So that's the nature of the business, and you have to be very conscious of that, and I think you have to be very careful of what you say to the media.
Told you, we talked, I want to switch tracks now. I don't want to belabor this point. We talked way before again, and we talked about the grueling schedule that you have to go through to get ready for the season. Specifically, your schedule went completely haywire when you started the 2-a-day workouts and everything like that. Give me for those that weren't privy to that conversation, give us a little a summation of what you actually go through on a given day. Say you're just getting ready to start the season. You're in the middle of your 2-a-day workouts and that. What's it all take about getting back into shape and ready for the game? What's your workout schedule like?
Let me start by saying that getting back in shape begins probably around February 1st, and my off-season conditioning program, I take about 3 weeks off to let my body and mind heal up. And then I start a lifting and running program supplemented with a martial arts program. Not a lot of guys do the martial arts, but the lifting and running is a must. And I say that I would estimate that I spend probably a good 6 hours a day training, whether it's martial arts, lifting, and running, or any combination of the three. And I usually start the intense part of that probably at about, I'd say, mid-March. The first part is usually pretty low-key, does not take a whole lot of concentration, but it's still done, and the intensity picks up as we get closer to training camp. Once training camp starts, we're at St. Vincent's College in beautiful Latrobe, Pennsylvania, for 6 weeks in probably some of the nicest weather known to man. Usually it's about 90 to 100 degrees and something like 80% humidity. And what a wonderful existence. And for those 6 weeks, we get up at 7 o'clock every morning, eat breakfast, lift weights a little bit, have the morning practice, have the morning meeting for a half hour, morning practice for an hour and a half. Then we break for lunch. Then we have a short break, another meeting, and another 2-hour practice in the afternoon, followed by dinner, then a short half-hour break to more meetings from 7:30 till about 10:30. And that's the way we live for 6 weeks.
And that program, folks, is nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to what we put this man through today to get him on this TV show here. So he's ready for at least another good 10 seasons after this thing. Tunch, thanks very much for stopping by, and unfortunately we've run a little bit out of time. Thanks. Maybe we can have you back again sometime.
Great.
That interview was a lot of fun, and great times were had with Tunch Ilkin. Here's remembering you fondly, buddy. Rest in peace.